You are listening to Pivot Parenting, episode 210, Having a Morning Routine While Parenting with Ahna Fulmer. Welcome to Pivot Parenting, the place where we recognize when your parental role needs to shift and how to do it. I'm your host and parenting expert, Heather Frazier. One of the most common things I hear from parents is that they look around at their siblings, at their neighbors, at their friends, and it can feel so depressing, overwhelming, and next to impossible to feel like a good parent. And oftentimes it causes them to want to just give up and stop trying, maybe even move to a deserted island, they joke around. But I get it. And we have all had that experience of, why do I bother? What kind of difference is this even making? They don't like me. They don't listen. It's not effective. And that is why I wrote my bestseller book, How I Fixed My Teen. It's getting 5-star reviews and remaining on the bestseller list on Amazon. And it is because I distill down exactly how you know you are being a good parent right now and how to love and help your kid in a way that feels inspiring and authentic and peaceful. My whole premise of this book is to create more peace and understanding for you in some of the most confusing and difficult years for both you and your kids. The teen years are no joke, and I am here to help you make the very, very best of them. You can find my book on my website, heatherfrazier.com. You can find it on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Walmart.com. All the major retailers are going to have How I Fixed My Teen. And it is my life's work and gift to you so that you can feel seen, understood, and like there really is hope for their future and for your future relationship. I genuinely believe that it's never too late, that it's never too much damage or too big of a mess up, that you really can have the exact relationship that you want with your child. That's why I wrote this book. And so I really encourage you to go to my website or another retailer and check it out. Now, today I am talking with Ahna Fulmer, and she is a morning routine guru. Now, a lot of us either love the idea of a morning routine or we strongly resist it. We think that it has to be that we're getting up really early, which we do talk about together. We talk about all the different things, and I'm kind of in the middle. I know that I have somewhat of a routine. I tend to like to just be sort of more freeform, but I also really love the benefit of having consistency. And so I really valued our conversation. I'm curious to see what you think as you listen to it. As always, I love to hear from my listeners. The easiest way to interact with me is follow me on social media, Heather Frazier Coaching, or get on my email list, where once a week I'm going to send you helpful little tidbits of information, just little sound bites, tiny little tweaks that you can make throughout the week to improve your parenting. Super digestible. And you sign up for that at the bottom of my website. You just put in your first name and your email. It's just you and I. And I would love to hear what you think about morning routines. As always, I also love when you share or review my podcast so that other parents can discover how helpful it is. All right, here is my conversation with Ahna. Hey, Ahna, welcome to today's podcast episode.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have this conversation. I know that a lot of parents struggle, especially with the mix of teens and if they're driving and if they're not, and what the school schedule is. to sort of have consistency. And so I'm really excited. But for my listeners who don't know you, this is Ahna Fulmer. And can you introduce yourself for them?
Yeah, I am Ahna Fulmer. I am a wife of one, a mom of four, three biologically, one coming through adoption. And I am a nurse practitioner by trade and experience. I have two masters in nursing, one in adult geriatric critical care, one in family medicine. I worked in the ER for a decade and then had one of those life altering moments where I pivoted. And now instead of practicing emergency medicine, I practice preventative medicine through virtual health and fitness coaching. And we just launched a, um, sort of the pinnacle of my virtual entrepreneur career. When I first went into the career, I had no idea why God was leading me here. And Early Morning Habit, which is the name of my program that we just launched in January, is definitely why I was brought to this space, and it has been a joy to be able to bring my personal and professional experiences to the virtual world and to see lives changed.
I love that. Okay. And where are you located?
We're in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, so we're near Philly, like an hour from Philly.
Very nice. Pennsylvania is beautiful, but I hear the weather's not so good right now.
Not in the spring. The fall is the time to be in Pennsylvania. Otherwise, I would probably go south.
Fair enough. Okay. Tell me what you mean when you say morning routine.
Mm. Well, there's several clarifying points anytime that we talk about morning routine. And what's funny is when I was naming the program, I had several people say, "Well, don't call it early morning habit because when you put early in there, a lot of women are going to be like, well, I'm out." And I pushed back on that because I said the fact is, speaking for myself, I desperately wanted to be an early morning person. I wanted to be able to wake up earlier and establish a morning routine that I could sustain because I so desperately needed that quiet alone time in my life as a busy mom and then an entrepreneur on top of it. And so when I created it, because I'm not a morning person by nature and by biology, 50% of us are not, and it created this system where I did actually, because of the science and the implementation and the intention that I put to it, I was able to reprogram my brain and my body to become an early morning riser. I was like, absolutely, it's going to be called early morning habit because it is possible. It's not essential to get up early, but it is possible with the right system in place. So when we talk about morning, we first need to define what that is. And per the research, the definitive early morning is before 7 a.m. The global rise time is about 7:30. And a lot of that has to do with culture around education and work times, and that's a global reality. So for most people, the average wake time is 7:30 around the world. From a scientific standpoint and a research-based standpoint, when we say early, it's before 7 a.m. There's a lot of research to suggest the benefits of getting up before 7 a.m., which we don't need to, go all into at the moment, but just understand that technically speaking, before 7 a.m. is considered early. But the beauty of my program specifically is the concept of it is not necessarily the time that you get up, but how you start your day. And so that's really what early morning habit is focused on is helping women revitalize their body and soul by starting their day being, not doing.
What do you mean being not doing?
What do I mean being not doing? Yeah, it's so countercultural. People are like,
Yeah.
I think I start a morning routine to do more, right? That's how most of us start out. That's how I started out. I pushed the clock back earlier when I first became a virtual entrepreneur. Specifically, I started out as a home DIY decor blogger, which is a whole nother story. But that's what forced me to start my day earlier because I had a 5, 3, and 1 year old at the time. And I was also working in emergency medicine. I also started up two stroke programs for two different hospitals and was acting as the assistant medical director for both. And I had no time. My only time was if I got up before my kids, which is not natural for me. So I set it to 6:30 and my kids normally got up at 7. This was the only time that I had to really be able to write.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with this quiet, with the calm. It was just me, myself, and I. And I just felt such clarity. And initially, I did start to be more productive. But what happened was I started to realize that this time was so precious, this stillness. And as a Christian, somebody who loves Jesus and who literally cannot survive without that time in prayer and in God's word, I realized that this was the perfect time to do it, where it was just so calm. And so I pushed my alarm clock back a little earlier because I really wanted to be able to start this time in quiet. And it just kept coming back earlier and earlier and earlier. And then I thought, okay, what if I could get my workout in? Like, what? As somebody who was an athlete for a competitive athlete for 8 years, we're conditioned to work out in the afternoon because that's when practices happen. That's when a lot of games, afternoon and evening. And so even though by this point I had transitioned to be a virtual health and fitness coach, I had not been in the habit of getting my workout done first thing. And so what happened is that like the clock getting pushed back, I'd get my workout clothes on in the morning and then still end my day in the workout clothes, sans workout. And then you feel grungy and it's this negative feedback cycle. You don't dress well for the day. So I decided, okay, what if I could get my workout in too? And what happened is it just transformed my entire day. And when I say early morning habit is empowering women to start their day being not doing, what happened is that my morning routine became twofold. I started my day with quiet time that was grounded in emotionally intelligent gratitude practice, followed by an effective at home workout. Those two things, starting my day with that, just revitalized every single dimension of my health. And I knew that that is what I needed. That's what I was here for, to help empower women do the same.
Wow, that sounds amazing and somewhat overwhelming. Although it sounds like you kind of
Hmm.
baby stepped it.
That's right.
So, my audience is parents of teens.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, our schools start pretty early. Like I get up with my girls every morning at 6:30 and we do family scripture study, while they're eating breakfast. So we're getting in our Jesus time with our kids first thing in the morning. But how, like, I think a lot of parents also are starting pretty early with their teenagers. How do we, like, is that okay to get those benefits just to do our scripture study with them? Should we tell me, speak to me more about this? I'm curious.
Yeah. So there's, the key takeaway that I want anyone to hear from the beginning is that if it's not sustainable, it's not attainable. Meaning, if the practices that we implement in our lives are not able to be modified and personalized so that they are sustainable, the end goal is never going to be attainable. So when we talk about morning routine, the idea is to take these concepts that we teach and be able to implement them in your morning routine in a way that you can sustain. The I love the practice. I love that um you start your day that way with your kids. The one thing that I'm really passionate about, especially for women, is the intention of at some point being able to be still by ourselves with no other family members and quiet our minds is so essential. And this is where we get lost sometimes is we fill our day with so much busyness and it's all good things. And whether it be investing in our kids, our spouses, our homes, our community, our jobs. But when we look back through the day, we've actually had no time to just be with our own thoughts and our own emotions and really being able to address our own fears and insecurities. And this is why we start the day with this concept of being. not doing. And what that looks like in the community is whether you are getting up at 5:30, whether you're getting up at 8:30, we really want to empower women with the tools, which is why we talk about emotionally intelligent gratitude and how to practice that in this time. Because what we want you to be able to do is to have a period of time in your day, specifically first thing when you wake up, where not only do you start your day with truth. So in our community, we are starting our day with prayer and God's word, but we are also implementing this research backed concept of emotionally intelligent gratitude, wherein we address our greatest fears, what's on our mind. We acknowledge how it's affecting our emotions, how it's affecting our thoughts, how we are then behaving because of those thoughts. And we acknowledge them. And then we cover them with gratitude in order to change the way that we actually think and ultimately behave and just revitalize every area of our life.
It sounds to me like what it looks like is less important, and doing it with intention and purpose and um, awareness, like really slowing down, focusing, not being in a rush is kind of the bigger deal.
Yeah, and it's being willing to just that is to be still. And this is what's
Mm-hmm.
really hard. A lot of us women crave it, but we don't know how to do it, or we don't have any accountability and structure to do it. And so what happens is that stillness and that intention is happening while we're doing the dishes or while we're driving or right. And so we try to implement it in our lives, but in the end, it's still being masked by our busyness. And so this very raw, organic, and yet simple concept of waking up, grabbing that hot beverage of choice, and in the stillness, no children, no spouses, no music, in the stillness, you are learning to be able to redevelop the awareness of your own heart and mind and letting yourself get more comfortable being uncomfortable and addressing what it is that is truly on your mind, allowing them to exist, the fears, the worries, the concerns, but then using this research based practice of emotionally intelligent gratitude to then hover it in a way that brings joy and security and confidence. So starting your day, even if it's 20 minutes. So whether you're getting up at 6 o'clock and doing that for 30 minutes before you start at 6:30, um, or however it fits into your routine, that's the heartbeat is really trying to empower women to start their day and modified in a way that is sustainable for you with this practice.
Okay. And you keep saying this emotionally intelligent gratitude.
Yeah.
Is this a specific concept that you teach?
Yes, it is the heartbeat
Okay.
of the program. So it's a 6-pillar program. It's a 6-week course, and every single week has a very specific title and theme. But the third week, which is really the heartbeat of early morning habit, is learning how to still fear and strengthen faith with this research-based concept. It's emotional intelligence is something that we are hearing more about, but a lot of people still have no idea what it really is. So we have IQ, which is intellectual intelligence. IQ cannot really be changed. When you come out of the womb, this is why kids are usually tested around third grade. It does not change much and they don't get retested. Like IQ is really something that is pretty much formed and is really not something that is developed. Emotional intelligence, though, has been shown to be the emotional element of our intelligence and how we live, and it can be developed, which is the good news. And really, what it is it's the process of being able to identify our emotions, so how we are feeling, being able to express our emotions, verbally say what it is that I'm feeling. And then the third element of it, which is the more difficult one, is being able to then regulate those emotions, which is the process of converting uncomfortable emotions to comfortable ones. And that's really where gratitude comes in. Gratitude is the secret to being able to do that. And so we give our community a very practical way of implementing that in their lives. And what's really cool is frequently moms are like, "Oh my gosh, not only is this revolutionizing my life, but I'm now using it with my kids." I had one woman, she said, "I wish I like where was this 20 years ago?" It's like, so now let's implement it in our kids' lives so they're not 20 years from now being like, "Why didn't I know this 20 years ago?" So it's such a beneficial practice, not just for ourselves as moms, but for our kids to learn how to do.
Yeah, that's the best way to teach our children is to lead through example. Know,
Amen.
follow
Amen.
what I do, not necessarily what I say. Because they
Yeah.
pick up
Hopefully they
on the
coincide.
inconsistencies. Yes, yes. And
Not
I
always.
don't think it's 100% for anyone, but yeah, but how we
Yeah.
behave and treat ourselves and others is definitely the bigger lesson than what we're saying.
Yeah, and it's the subconscious learning. I think that's the really humbling element as a parent is I can preach to my kids till I am blue in the face, but if my behavior is not reflecting what I'm saying, then that is going to have a lot of impact on what I'm saying, and it might be subconscious, but they are taking in what I'm doing as much as what I'm saying. So yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Now, as you were talking about the process of this, of sitting and being still, I can see a lot of parents being really uncomfortable with that
Yeah.
because we really are taught to always be consuming or doing, being
Mhm.
stimulated with something outside of us. So, what would you say to the parents who struggle to look inward? I know you said gratitude is the key. I don't know if
Mhm.
that's all there is to it or something else for parents who are just like, I don't like being alone with my brain.
Mhm. I would also say you are entirely normal and human because we are programmed, and depending on how you are raised, to have certain beliefs about emotions. And right, the reason that we don't want to be still is because we're afraid of facing the reality of the mess in our lives, whether it be the emotional mess, the mental mess, the fact that our family doesn't have it all together, that my marriage is struggling, that my job is, I'm miserable, or maybe financially I'm unstable. And so we hustle harder and we do more to try to prove to ourselves and the world that we're enough. But if we sit and we be still, now we have to acknowledge those realities. And that is uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. And yet, it is in those moments where we're able to face the fear, if you will. There's this old adage that says, name it to tame it, right? And the idea is like name the fear in order to tame it so that it does not take control over you. I hate the adage. I think it's a terrible one. And the reason is that it gives this idea that our fear, our worry, our emotions are an independent entity outside of our control. When I think tame it, I think a wild animal, right? It's like I want to tame this entity that is outside of myself. But in reality, our fear, our emotion, whatever it may be, is ours. So the better adage would actually say that we want to name it to claim it, take full
Mm.
ownership of it. You're terrified that you are not enough. You know what? You're going to name it and you are going to claim it. You are going to own that reality in your life. Your marriage is a mess. Say it. Say it out loud to the stillness. Write it down. We really encourage journaling and give journal sheets. And I have a free one for your audience that they can get.
Ooh.
But the idea is we want to start writing it down, giving it space to exist, not because we're going to tame it so that it doesn't control us. We're actually going to claim it and take ownership of it that, yes, this exists. It's a mess. And we're going to get more comfortable with those uncomfortable emotions. And that's step number one is what's on your mind? What's the fear? Name it, claim it, take ownership of it. It's yours. And then step number two is we're going to use what's called an emotion wheel. And you are going to actually write down three emotions that you feel because of that fear, worry, whatever is on your mind, whatever you wrote there. that is uppermost on your mind. And depending on how you were raised, this is really uncomfortable because for some of us, we were raised that happy emotions, comfortable emotions are assigned this morality of good, whether we realized it or not. But then the uncomfortable ones, anger, fear, extreme sadness, are bad. And so you push those down, but you elevate the happiness, the joy, like that's okay. And so, what we have been programmed subconsciously for many of us is to think that certain emotions are good and others are bad, when in reality, they're just simply comfortable or uncomfortable. There's
Yeah.
no good or bad to them. They've been designed by God. We're emotional beings, reflective of his heart. He is too. So, there's no good or bad to it. It's comfortable and uncomfortable. So, we're going to get more comfortable being uncomfortable. And we're going to write down those uncomfortable emotions, how it makes us feel. And then what we're going to do, where gratitude comes in, gratitude is where the emotional regulation piece happens. This is the third component of developing emotional intelligence, of which there's so many reasons to do it. I could list research for days why we need to be strengthening emotional intelligence. But the bottom line is we're going to then think of very specific things that we're grateful for. And here's where we get gratitude practice all wrong. Some people listening are like, I practice gratitude already. Okay, you're probably doing it wrong. And here's why. Number one, we say, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my kids. I'm grateful for a roof over my head. Meh. First of all, it's boring. Second of all, it's not specific.
Okay.
This is where we miss it is we need to start being able to see every day the littlest things for which we can be grateful for. When you go to third world countries, one of the most empowering, humbling, inspiring realities is to see the level of gratitude for the simplest things that we take for granted for every day. And the reason is because they have nothing. We don't know what that means. And so we have to force ourselves because very few of us in America, if any of us, really truly know what it means to have nothing. And so we have to be really intentional about seeing all of the specific things to be incredibly grateful for. Clean water, um, a rug under our feet so that the floor that is freezing cold, like in my house right now, because the heat's off and it's still freezing, so that my feet aren't freezing cold when I walk to the kitchen. My automatic grind and brew coffee maker, like, are three things that come to mind right now that I experienced today already. And so you're going to list the most specific things that you can be grateful for. And then you're going to consider how those make you feel. And you're going to use this emotion wheel and you're going to identify three emotions. And what happens is then during the day, the goal is when you start experiencing those uncomfortable emotions, fear, anger, sadness being the three most common, you are going to actually consider, specifically dwell on what it was that morning that you listed that you were grateful for. And you are going to focus on how those things made you feel. So, like when my daughter's a hot mess and I'm so frustrated with her in the morning, and I'm angry and I'm sad, I'm devastated because I feel like I just don't have the answers as a mom. I'm going to take that moment and I'm going to stop and think about, okay, that same morning, I wrote down how grateful I was the day before that she actually let me brush her hair without fighting me. And that made me feel hopeful. And so I'm
Yeah.
going to focus on that and I'm going to be hopeful and I'm going to dwell on that and change that uncomfortable emotion to a comfortable one.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's remapping the brain is really what we're doing there.
Yeah. I do similar things, but not necessarily around gratitude, but I like that.
Yeah,
Can we be grateful for things like our teenager misbehaving?
I say 100% because in the struggle is where we see transformation. And part of our ability to get to that point where we can start to see our struggle as a blessing is through this practice of emotionally intelligent gratitude, which you pointed out so beautifully. And again, that's very counterintuitive in our culture because we, I think, at baseline strive for comfort and safety. not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, all of the above,
Yeah,
which often comes with control.
I feel like we're taught that something has gone wrong if we're experiencing negative emotions and if our kids misbehaving. But honestly,
Yep.
I totally agree with you. If, they're skipping school or doing something on their phone that they shouldn't be doing, those are really great opportunities to lean in and to learn what's going on with them. Like it can be the catalyst that we need to connect with them.
Absolutely. And also then along with that is, and something that we also talk about in the program, is this idea of where our confidence and worth truly lie. And again, it's like teaching our kids based on our own behavior. When we dismantle the idea that our value is in what we say or do, and instead find it in the God that created you, it changes your entire perspective on life, not just as a parent, but the value even of your children. And so it's trying to change the lens through which we see ourselves, to that of the way that God sees us, which is worthy of loving and being loved in return simply because he loved us first. And we were made in his image, defined with infinite worth. And so until we're able to see ourselves that way, we're going to struggle to even see our kids that way. And we're going to
Yeah.
quickly associate their behavior with not only their worth, if we're being honest, but with our own worth
Oh,
as
yeah.
parents.
Yeah. That's probably one of the biggest things that I work with parents on
Yeah.
is, my kid is so disrespectful. I failed them. I did a
Yeah.
bad job or whatever it is. Yeah. So other than gratitude, is there another way that morning routine can impact our parenting? Or is that the
So
main
many ways.
piece?
I mean, that's one of the primary through lines is we want to, encourage our community to learn how to start their day being, not doing, with this practice, which transforms us every area of our lives. But really what we're doing in the program is, you can't rise well if you're not sleeping well. So we also do sleep training. That's where we start. Your morning routine starts the night before.
Yep.
So like, yeah, right, right. Every mom knows that. Like, you don't
Yeah.
have to tell me twice. Um, but in week one, we're talking about how we can pursue holistic health care by practicing scientific self care. So we're going to try to revitalize all five dimensions of our health, and then we are restoring deep sleep with our sensory sleep rehab system. So that alone, you're going to see improvement in all areas of your life if you're sleeping better. And then we talk about renewing your mind through emotionally intelligent gratitude practice in the morning. We talk about remodeling your body with effective ways to boost your metabolism. So we tap into the idea of non exercise activity thermogenesis and what that looks like on a day in and day out basis so that we live well. We want to live well, not just get fit.
Okay, you got to just back
So
up for a second. What did you just say? Thermogenic what?
I know it sounds like something from Star Wars, like a weird character. Um, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis is one of the three ways that we burn calories. So we have our basal metabolic rate, which is the body's energy requirement at rest.
Yep.
Then we have non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is the body's requirements with day-to-day movement. So this would be like walking from your car to the grocery store. This would be standing at your desk, sitting at your desk, drinking your water, all that kind of movement. And then we have exercise activity thermogenesis, which is where you are burning energy specifically with exercise. So, one of the things that we talk about is working smarter, not harder in our exercise because we're busy mamas. We don't have time. Like, if I'm going to work out, I want it to count. So, what we're tapping into is one, how to make that 30-minute workout count. And that's where we're really looking at um, heart rate specifically and the importance of that as it concerns exercise activity thermogenesis, and then ways to boost your metabolism through non exercise activity thermogenesis. And that's really the secret to living well sustainably.
Okay, if I were to actually witness that, what would it look like?
Non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Yeah, like if I was a fly on the wall,
Yeah.
what would I see?
Yeah. So NEAT is what we call it, is basically your day-to-day movement. So ways that you're going to improve that are going to be look and this is a struggle, by the way. We are more sedentary than ever because of technology, and many of us
Sure.
have virtual jobs.
Yep.
So once upon a time, no one needed to really think about this because we had to move just to live. We had to move to get our food. We had to plant the garden, harvest the garden, store the garden, and then cook the food to even get, the benefit from it. So we just had to move a lot more. But now we don't move nearly as much. So with non-exercise activity thermogenesis, we're looking at ways to improve our steps. This is where that concept originated. In the program, the goal is to get 10,000 steps, including your 30-minute workout.
Okay, so this is
But
like taking the stairs or parking farther away in the parking lot?
all those kinds of things.
Okay.
Yep. All of the above. Drinking more water, believe it or not, also improves your non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Love it.
Yep. So stuff like that. We talk about all those types of resources on top of that quick, effective morning workout because we want to get it done. Get it done.
Get it done.
That's right.
Okay, I love it. Do you have any other gems of wisdom on morning routines before we wrap up?
My number one recommendation is if you are wanting to start to get up earlier, you hear this and you like the idea of establishing quiet time and starting your day with calm instead of
Sure.
chaos, like I was doing for the majority of my life. It is better biologically to get up 15 minutes earlier, 7 days a week, than to get up an hour earlier, 2 days a week. You want consistency. It's better for our circadian rhythm. It is also going to be better to reprogram your brain and body to get up more consistently earlier. It'll be easier for you. So if you're interested in just like one next step, that would be my recommendation is just 15 minutes. That gives you 5 minutes to get dressed, get your hot beverage, sit down, 10 minutes of quiet time, 7 days a week.
Okay, I love it. How can listeners who are interested in learning more find you?
I'm on Instagram at Ahna Fulmer. If you like the idea of having more words of truth on your Instagram, you can also follow Early Morning Habit, and you will get at 8 a.m. every morning a beautiful graphic of scripture. So it is just a Bible
Nice.
verse every day. That's at Early Morning Habit. And you can certainly go to the website at earlymorninghabit.com to check out the program itself. We would love to have you. And I will also give you guys a link. You just put in your email address and we'll give you access to the app for free. And there's a free course. It's like a beginner's guide to establishing a morning routine that kind of gives you a step into that concept of emotionally intelligent gratitude and starting your day with calm.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Anna, for being here and sharing your wealth
Yeah,
of
thank you for
knowledge.
having me. I feel like we were on like speed dial. Sorry, I was like on fast forward, but it's really an honor. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for all you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Okay. What do you think about morning routine? What did you think about our conversation? I would love to hear your thoughts. Again, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, you can DM me on social media, Heather Fraser Coaching, or you can come to my website, sign up for my email list, and email me at heather@heatherfraser.com. I hope to see you all there and interact with you and hear how things are going. Genuinely, I just am here to help you. So let me know how I can best do that. Let me know if you have podcast suggestions too. If you have somebody that you think would be fun for me to talk with, or if you're struggling in a certain way, I would love to address that for you right here. Just let me know.
Heather is the one, an expert in the field. She knows her parenting stuff, including how confusing it can be. You've tried it all, and it's a lost cause. crying in the closet 'cause you failed.